Hello, this is the Commercial Landscaper Podcast with Robert Clinkenbeard. This show will transform your leadership by developing all areas of your life, business, family, personal and health. Only by fine-tuning yourself will you truly operate at a highly functioning leader. Super excited today to announce that we've just surpassed the 100th edition of the Commercial Landscaper Show. And we're going to see better things from this year. We're going to be introducing some education, courses in leadership and sales that you could apply and join and try to improve yourself. So hopefully you can join us in some of these courses and reach out if you want to hear some new guests. This is all about bettering you, bettering your business, and make you function at a super high level. Thanks again, everyone. Cheers. Hi, this is Robert Clinkenbeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I'm really excited to be joined today by Drew Garcia. I got to know Drew back at our conference in San Antonio back in July. We hung out a little bit, and then we saw each other again down at Elevate down in Orlando a couple of weeks ago, which was a great event. So, Drew, great to see you again. Tell the audience a little bit about your background, where you've come from.
Right on, Robert. Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this since we started talking about it. So I'm an insurance professional. I only work with lawn and landscape companies. And the quick version of my history into insurance, I think is probably like everybody in insurance. You didn't really grow up picturing yourself being an insurance man or getting into an insurance. Originally, my goals were to play professional baseball, and I chased that dream until I was about 28, 29 years old. I played in the minor leagues in the Chicago White Sox and Colorado Rockies organizations. Baseball was a family business for us. My grandfather was in professional baseball for 80 plus years. My father played in the minor leagues. My brother played in the major leagues. So that was the original family business. But when my dad got out of baseball early, he got into commercial insurance and ended up starting Rancho Mesa, which is the company that I worked for in 1998. We had a heavy focus on construction. That's what he was going to look to let our niche be. And in 2015 is when I joined Rancho Mesa, and I kind of could see the writing on the wall for me the last couple of years playing in AAA that the major leagues was not going to be in my future, and I was going to have to figure something out. And really what I was looking for at that time was quality of life and what I was looking for within life when I was going to just figure out what I was going to do after baseball. And the first thing I went to is I had recently got married. I was had the plans to have kids, and I really just remembered growing up, my dad always had time for me. So he was my baseball coach. He was at all of my baseball games, school plays, school functions, and I saw him on the weekend. And to me, that's what resonated the most. I wanted to be able to provide that level of opportunity to be involved with my family and my kids at that level. So that intrigued me with the insurance industry. And so I started 2015, and my dad put me into the construction unit to be my niche and my silo. I quickly realized that insurance is a gray hair industry, and really, if you don't have gray hair, people aren't really taking you too serious. So I think as an athlete, I just kind of tried to figure out a competitive advantage for myself and create an edge. Within about 3 months, I decided that the landscape industry was going to be it for me. And the thought process there was I was going to get to have consistent conversations with landscape businesses, find out what's going on in the industry, what are their issues, what are their frustrations with insurance, and just really address that one need versus kind of generally insuring a lot of businesses. And that way I would hopefully lap my competitors who could have 25 years in the business, but they might just have one landscape customer that they insure. And then that proved to work well for me. So I haven't looked back since then. Got involved at the national level with NALP in 2016, just eager to learn and meet people like you, Robert, to just better understand the industry, what the issues are, where it's headed. That way I could provide that level of professionalism and insight on the risk and insurance side. And it was just strictly luck and fortune to fall into the green industry. If I could have picked an industry, this would have been it. But I really just got lucky that it became my niche when I got into insurance.
Right. Yeah, I mean, such a great industry. And I think, as you said, one of the things I really enjoyed, when getting to know you more was obviously you've had such a high level of playing ability in the, in baseball. I don't really have that background coming from the UK, but to see you playing at that level and then getting involved in the industry. But I think now you were sharing with me that, you're now living just outside San Diego. You've got a large, amount of land. You've got chickens. You've got the family, and very similar to a lot of the stuff that I do. So I think that's where I could relate a lot. So it was really great to talk to you. So just offline, we talked about, this podcast is, good timing because people are beginning to get into the budgets. They're starting to plan for next year. They're starting to think, well, let's get the budgets. Then we can then look at our pricing for our clients next year. So to talk a little bit about, some of the things that you're doing this year to help out your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that insurance has probably kind of got it gets overseen. It doesn't really have the attention that I do believe from the insurance industry we should be consistently putting in front of our customers. So what I mean by that is when you guys are looking at the budget or you're coming up with your budget for the next year and you're potentially talking to your customers about increases, and this is what the contract could look like for next year against everything that's going on within the industry, wage inflation, gas prices, material costs, everything is up. And you're trying to communicate that early to your customer so that they have time to palate it. And then you're also going to talk to them. I just listened to the podcast you did with Bob Grover recently, where he's delivering that information early to his customers, but he's also talking to them about how he's going to help them manage the increase, or if there's going to be an increase, this is what we're going to do to help better position you in the future, or here's how we're going to scale this back to help offset any of the monetary increase. And that's what we're looking to do for the landscape companies that we insure. And we kind of hone in about 120 days roughly before any policy renews to have those level of conversation so that the cost could be accounted for, because on the insurance side, the market can change. Your claim activity could increase and you could be up against, significant increases on your insurance policies. There could be issues with your experience mod, and in many cases, that could compromise some of the projects that you're on or that you potentially want to bid in the future. And we wanted to provide that level of insight to our customers so that they just feel well informed. I don't feel like, the people that we serve need to fully understand every insurance coverage that they're, every policy form and things like that. They would rely on us to make sure that those are appropriate, but to give them the peace of mind that they generally know what's happening and what's to be expected, and then delivering on those when it comes closer to the renewal in a timely fashion. So it's not last minute, and it's providing everybody the opportunity to make good quality decisions, minimize the opportunity for missing something, and then, doing the normal stuff like getting certificates of insurance out and things like that. So just trying to be a little bit more proactive in the managing and storytelling of what's in the insurance market.
No, and it reminds me really well of, I remember one day coming into my company and talking to the leadership team, and I don't think they quite realized, and there was no real reason to share what those costs look like on, liability insurance and workers' comp. But when we shared that information to them, it was just that shocked look in their face. And, we made a tremendous effort over the next couple of years and really working on reducing that liability, looking at the safety, looking at workers' comp, what are the things we could do. And I thought we did a fair job. But I felt when we were acquired by a company, it took that safety to another level. And it was just over the last few years before we sold and after we sold, we could just see that cost of insurance continually coming down because we were really proactive. We worked at reducing risk. We looked at managing some of the employees that did get hurt to get them back to work quicker. And there was just a lot of proactive stuff. And I think our insurance company we eventually found that one that was really good for us. And they had so many programs to offer. And I think there's a lot of other insurance companies out there that have those same programs, but nobody thinks to ask, or maybe they're not offered out front. So love to hear more about, your thinking around that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just nailed it right there. Insurance carriers and agents like myself and businesses like yours that you have in the past, Robert, and people listening today that are running a landscape business or a lawn care company, everybody's looking for partnerships in business, and that's what it's all about: deep relationships and partnerships. Insurance is no different. It's a common frustration for most people. We start talking about insurance, and the blood starts to boil, and everyone gets frustrated. But it's so necessary in business. If you didn't have it, we couldn't do what we do, and you couldn't be an entrepreneur and take that risk. You have businesses behind you backing the risk that you take on with policies. And, insurance carriers, it's kind of always been difficult because they are these big companies that, are painted to have all this money, and, that there's some frustration around that. But these are real people that aren't really three-dimensional. I think that's the piece that we're trying to do on our side, is to help deliver deeper relationships with our customers and their carrier partners, because these are real people on the other side that are looking to support and help your business, whether that's from claims handling, loss control services that they can provide. If you just get that introduction and you get to meet these people face to face, you'll realize that just like you and I have common interest in chickens and having some land, these people are the same way. They have these same interests. And I feel like by, making those connections, it only enriches the relationship that you have with your insurance carrier. And hopefully there's going to be some, more attention and support that they can provide and better understanding your business. So they're going to be able to, make those recommendations, and then you get to follow through with helping to see those efforts, take place. But some examples of that on the carrier side, I mentioned loss control and claims handling. When you're talking about insurance, you're really looking at the way that the insurance carrier is going to handle your claims and their ability to handle them, because that could impact your injured employees' process, to recovery, your experience mod, your future insurance costs when it comes to work comp. So claims handling is a big deal, and there's some key things that you can hone in on with carriers to make sure that you're getting the best in class. Loss control services, when they send out risk managers out there to do some job site inspections and make recommendations. A lot of people, I think, look at that as a punch list and checking it off the box. But if you really take the time to listen to those, those professionals, they have a lot of great insight that they can provide, and they can make it industry specific, because they can talk to you about the other landscape companies that they insure and here's some recommendations that they can make based on, dealing with other companies and issues that are going on within the industry. And then from your agent side, so like from the Rancho Mesa side, services like claims advocacy. So like a service we offer our landscape companies is an employee for us. His name is Jim Malone. He's worked every part of a work comp claim, was originally a construction worker that was hurt so severely that he needed to go through a voc rehab process and find a new profession. He actually was pulled by an insurance carrier to help start managing work comp claims. Through that, he went into self-insurance, and then he started working on the doctor report side. So he's had a chance to see every side of a work comp claim, and that's a service we provide to our customers so that he can provide that level of oversight onto the claims as they're going on, because it can be confusing for a lot of people if you don't have many claims and you don't deal with work comp injuries often. It can seem like you're redoing things over and over each time and having to relearn the work comp process each time. So that's something from the agency side that we're really seeing a lot of different independent agents like Rancho Mesa are bringing to the table. And then, different technologies and safety platforms. I think everyone today is looking for, KPIs and just give me the quick info that I need to make these corrections. And, over time, we feel like we've been able to create a really nice KPI safety dashboard that we provide to our landscape companies to provide that level of insight on the experience mod that we talked about without all the, confusing things that comes with that, just the nuts and bolts of how your experience mod is being impacted, what the future experience mod might look like, what's a 10-year average, when does this information become relevant, all of that kind of on one single page. And then we've developed a benchmarking report underneath that, where you've got 3 dials that you're monitoring that are ultimately going to impact the experience mod, but they're going to give you the day-to-day, here's where you stand from a safety component, and it's going to provide, the leadership team an opportunity to make some corrections before there's any drastic change on the experience mod, and then future pricing. So I think always asking those questions and looking for things like that from your carrier or your insurance agent is relative, and it's out there. I know it's out there.
Yeah, that actually brings up so many questions. Because what touched on it earlier that again, I'm generalizing here, but I did experience in my past company where we may only see the insurance agent up 2 weeks before renewal time. And it was you almost felt as though you were being put over a barrel. You had to sign because it was almost too late to try and get alternative bids or whatever. But if companies are having a bad experience, or they're trying to find an insurance company, a lot of the time as soon as they hear insurance, they'll pass it off to their maybe their HR manager because they just don't want to deal with it. But you brought up some great points about some of the initiatives that many good insurance companies offer, and how do you get yourself in a position where you're actually talking to the right people? You could show some of the ROI that you can produce. You could show some of your KPIs or charts that really make a big impact on that company. That must be a challenge you come across all the time.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think each business has their own challenges and they're looking for information. Everyone absorbs info differently. So I think a challenge that we face is finding a way to communicate that the way that the business owner wants it, and you struggle or used to, I'm sure, with your business prior to selling. You have different customers that you serve that, although you're doing a great job for somebody and you're doing the exact same thing for another, the way that they're receiving that information isn't the way that the other customer is. So you're having to constantly find a different way to present that information, or to kind of spark the thoughts on the other side so that you guys all get on the same page. And all of that comes with communication and constantly being in front of your customer. If you're not talking to them, you really don't know the issues that they're having. So, a way that we try to overcome that issue is to be in front of the customer. And like you mentioned, seeing your agent 2 weeks before renewal, and maybe they got a couple quotes and now it's time to review and make a decision. If that's the extent of what you're receiving, then maybe you should be asking for more. And I think a lot of people, when they look at insurance, they're looking at the price, and that's obviously very important. But the people that I feel like really make the best decisions almost make an agent decision or a broker decision in advance of looking at cost at the end, because then you're getting a chance to ask those questions that are meaningful and powerful to you, like how often can we have claim reviews? Can you coordinate 90-day claim reviews with our insurance carrier so that we're all making sure we're on the same page and nothing's slipping through the crack? Because there could be turnover within your organization at the HR level or somebody handling the claim, and you don't want something to get missed. So you want to make sure that your carrier is partnering up with you, and as the agent, you're involved in that to kind of quarterback the scenario to make sure that everyone's questions are being answered. So I just think a way to do that is just to stay in front of the customer, and that could be something that the business owner requests from their agent is, hey, if you don't have a lot of activity, there's not a lot of claims on the work comp side, maybe meeting halfway through the year or 5 months into any policy to just kind of get an update on, how are we doing? What does my future experience model look like? Hey, I'm looking to do some first aid training. Is that something that the insurance carrier could support for me? We want to do a heat illness awareness training. Is that something the insurance carrier could support for us? The carriers are there to support your safety needs. They want you to do as well as you want to do. So, finding that time to make sure that you can ask those questions basically comes with involvement and communication and having those meetings at appropriate times. And we typically see every 90 days as that increment.
Yeah, that's great. And I think one of the biggest challenges I see is I think that a lot of the business owners don't have the knowledge to ask those questions. They don't know what they don't know. So, I mean, apart from listening to these great podcasts that we're doing, I mean, what are some of the other ways to, I suppose, become a little bit more educated without getting too bogged down into the details, but just have that high level checklist of here's the top 5 or 10 questions that I should be asking?
Well, it depends on what you're looking for, but if you're looking for involvement from your carrier, I'd say some key things that you should be looking for from your work comp carrier or your liability carrier is financial rating. You want to make sure that they're financially solvent through AM Best, and that's something you can look up online. And then to me, I do like in-house claims handling. So you have two versions of handling work comp claims. You can go through a third party called a TPA, and then there's other carriers that offer claims in-house per se. So if you have an insurance carrier who has their own claims handlers handling the claims, that would be a difference of a carrier writing your policy, but then maybe contracting out the claims to another company to handle those. Not to say that one is better than the other or anything. I just do feel like we end up getting stronger outcomes. I feel like when the insurance carrier is handling the claims versus using a third party, although you can be successful having a third party as well. So that would be something to ask for. You could ask for loss control services, so that's going to help spark any of those safety trainings or job site visits that you might want a second set of eyes looking at particular job sites. You can ask those questions on your carrier. And then when you're picking an insurance agent, if you're going through that process, I think volume and their stance within your industry should be important, because they're going to bring answers to questions that you might not know you already have, because they're addressing them with their other landscape customers in this industry. But if you're a contractor in another industry, you would kind of want to know a little bit of volume and their expertise within your particular trade. I think that's something that holds weight. And then throwing out a service plan and asking your agent, hey, other than answering the phone and getting me quotes and getting our certs out, what else is there? What else is there to do? And I think on the maintenance side, on the landscape maintenance side, that's what's being asked of those companies. I think everybody can mow grass and everybody can trim.
That's almost like the base. That's like the base. What's the other stuff you offer?
What's the other stuff? Exactly. I think when it comes to insurance, people think, oh, that must be so expensive if you're offering all that, the other stuff. And that's not the case, and if we have a few minutes, we can kind of swing into the different insurance programs that are out there outside of traditional guarantee cost policies. But that's how you can, ultimately save more money, is by investing more into your own safety program through partnerships with your carriers and your agents to bring, more support to help you ultimately lower your costs. So it can be contradicting where you think, wow, if I get all these other services, it must be really expensive. But in the long run, and just like you can probably attest to with, water management and things like that, there might be an upfront investment, but over the long haul, you're going to get a lot of, soft cost retention, as well as the hard cost, the actual cost of the policies.
Yeah, so we don't have a huge amount of time left, but why don't you just give a quick overview of what type of programs are out there, and then we'll finish up with just how do people then get in touch with you just to learn more. You just give them whet their appetite a little bit, and then they can reach out to you directly and just obviously dive in a little bit deeper and find out more about the different programs available.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I would say most people are on what is called a guaranteed cost policy. When you think about work comp, you pay a set premium and then the carrier handles the claims. Then as your business grows and you get a little bit larger, I would say when you're paying premiums in excess over 100,000, but probably more close to 250 to 300,000, you kind of can form into some other options where, and it's, basically for the sake of time, you're looking at two different performance-based products that come after guaranteed cost in that very traditional standard policy. You would look at deductible workers' compensation or captive insurance. I think those are the two that we primarily see. With the deductible program, it's more of a cash flow program. You're going to get an upfront premium savings. The carrier is going to give you a lower cost upfront, and now you're going to only be paying on claims as they actually happen, up to a set amount, whatever that deductible might be. And I think most people might go, oh, great, I'll take on a deductible tomorrow. And they're thinking of $1,000 or $2,000. And that's not where the needle's really moving. It's where you start to get to the probably $10,000-$25,000 minimum per claim deductibles, where the premium starts to offset, and then you can graduate and get onto those larger deductibles and $100,000, $250,000 range for the big companies. And I would say at about 10 million in revenue, if you're a maintenance company, about 10 million in revenue, those opportunities should be discussed and talked about. There's things like volatility of the market. You could be in a soft work comp market, which means rates are down and the work comp system's performing well. Carriers are making money, so there's pressure on rates to come down. And that might not necessarily be the time for you to want to take on more risk, because you're already getting the benefit of a low upfront guaranteed cost policy. But as market conditions change and carriers start to increase rates, but maybe your safety performance is stagnant and you're not having issues, you're really controlling risk, that could be the time for you to create an advantage for yourself against the rest of the market by taking on a deductible or taking a look at a captive where now you're taking on more risk with the opportunity to either save money or have money come back to you in the form of a dividend in the sense of a captive, which is more of a pre-funded program. You're still pre-funding a premium with a captive, but as those underwriting years close out at years 4 and 5, if you didn't have any claims or the group performed well, then there's a chance for you to get that underwriting profit back that typically would go to the insurance carrier. So that's cool. That was a real quick high and low on that for work comp. And just to finish up too, just to kind of give hopefully a nice nugget for people moving forward into the new year. I would say, and it's probably been consistent over the last 6 or 7 years, auto liability for landscape companies, particularly on the maintenance side where you're fleet heavy, you have a lot of trucks, there's a lot of exposure out there for you. That market is still very volatile. So carriers are taking rate increases on auto, and anything that you can do to lighten your ability to and educate your carrier and tell them this is what you're doing to address that risk is super important moving forward. And whether that's shoring up routes so there's less drive time, driver training, continuous driver monitoring, those things are going to help make you best in class and hopefully collect that best in class premium. That market's difficult, as well as the umbrella and excess market, and that's the policy that people take on that kind of goes over their general liability and their auto, and then the employer's liability of work comp. There's a lot of issues there for insurance carriers right now, insuring landscape businesses. There's concern for wildfire. They're having issues there, so we've seen increased rates coming on those lines. So I think if you're looking out into the 2023 year, I would say the work comp market should be relatively still soft, might be at the bottom of that market, but things still seem to be firm on the auto and excess. So making sure you're having early conversations with your agent in advance of renewal would be a great recommendation.
No, that's great. That's a great nugget. Thank you, Andrew. And how do people get in touch with you, just so they can maybe dive in a little bit deeper with some of those points?
That would be great. So my email is drewgarcia@ranchomesa.com, drewgarcia@ranchomesa.com. You can go onto our website, www.ranchomesa.com. You can find my contact info there. And then my office number is 619-937-0200.
Awesome. Drew, really appreciate your time today. That was really helpful. Wasn't boring whatsoever, which is what I was used to with my old agents. So thanks for keeping it lively and keeping everybody informed. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, Drew, and I look forward to further conversations.
Robert, thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. That was the Commercial Landscaper podcast hosted by Robert Clinkenbeard, and I'm the author of the Ironman Mindset for Entrepreneurs. If you want to find out more about the show, you're welcome to go to thecommerciallandscaper.com, or if you want to learn more about courses, education, buying some books, even if you want to just drop a note and suggest a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Again, this is Robert Clinkenbeard, the Commercial Landscaper podcast. Cheers, everyone.